This morning. Joey's been working all through Thanksgiving.
He has.
Which we appreciate.
Yeah, it's been fun. This is 4 or 5 years I've done this, and you know, I did my dinner a week ago, so I got my turkey and dressing because that's where I'm from, and we call it giblet gravy.
The dressing
Cranberry
with
sauce.
That means it's with cornbread?
Pretty much, yeah. It's like almost like a casserole. It's real thick. It's not stuffing, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And we do dressing. I don't want it stuffed into the bird.
I like
it
stuffing, but
stuffed
it's a
in the
different
bird.
dish. It's a different thing.
Don't get all the drippings into the...
That's what the giblet gravy is.
Yeah.
It's
I like it any way you do it.
Did you have yourself a piece of pie and a cup of coffee yesterday morning?
I sure did. A little pumpkin
I know
pie
that's
and
what you
coffee.
love.
I
On
do.
Friday morning, after all your hard work on
yeah.
Thursday, you get some quiet time on Friday. She told me this week. She gets some quiet time on Friday morning. She gets a piece of pie.
like right out of the
And her
refrigerator.
coffee.
That cold pumpkin pie. Oh, that's
No,
what
it just,
I like.
it sat out.
Oh, okay, I like it
But
out
you
of
did
the
that?
refrigerator.
I did do that.
Was it a nice, quiet moment?
It was a wonderful, wonderful. It's my
One of few.
favorite part of Thanksgiving.
Well, maybe you're having a piece of pie and having some coffee
Yeah, I hope
with
so.
us this morning as we hang out for the next 4 hours. By the way, there was a visitor last night to Mar-a-Lago. It's Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Made his way down to speak to President-elect Donald Trump. He wasn't alone, by the way. They had a big dinner table that included Howard Lutnick, Secretary of...
Noticias, there's a big port in a giant mega port that was just built by China in Peru, and Donald Trump saying anything that goes through that port, we'll consider it Chinese good, and we're going to slap a tariff on that as well. So this is a big deal. You actually had somebody come onto your show to talk about it, an economist, who says this is going to be great for the U.S.
Yeah, this week on the Will Cain Show, I had Professor Peter Saint on. She's an economist professor. He's worked with the Heritage Institute. We had a fascinating conversation
Yeah, that's
about
interesting.
the income tax, about tariffs, and we talked about these particular tariffs on Canada and Mexico, and he explained why these as a tool to affect policy, in this case the border, could be effective, and they won't set off a trade war or put us in a position necessarily as the United States where Canada and Mexico could retaliate. Watch. He went on in that, by the way.
That's so fascinating. People don't think about it in that way.
No, they just don't have the economic might to retaliate against the United States, giving Donald Trump power to effectuate the policy change that he wants. By the way, you can see more of that. Go to willcainshow.com, and you can hear, because it was a fascinating, deeper conversation about replacing the income tax with tariffs, something that's also been talked about by Trump.
Yeah, when you look at what would be taxed with the tariff from Canada specifically, you're looking at 34 critical minerals and metals. We're talking about aluminum, even uranium, steel, crude oil. There's a lot of things. It probably might be why Mike Waltz was there as the national security advisor, that the Pentagon values, and the Pentagon wants to see be secure. But if you take a step back, the two sides of this issue are, one, what would we be putting tariffs on? And just on this topic, real quick, we've lived under a regime that for 4 years has told us we should pay $5 a gallon for gas for the sake of doing the right thing. I'm okay with tariffs on some things if that means closing the border and making our country secure, because that's a lot better deal than the Green New Deal that this current administration has had us paying for energy. But just to go back to what the win is on these tariffs with Canada, a lot of people think, well, it's the southern border we're worried about. Well, if I can rewind you just a little bit, in the year 2023, 85% of all suspected terrorists that were caught and found on the terror watch list were coming through the Canadian border. So this idea that Canada is a safe border because it's a relatively safe or well-governed country, that's not true. Now,
And I think the conversation you had explains why Justin Trudeau, who ideologically couldn't be more different than Donald Trump, went to Mar-a-Lago and is really very, I think, conciliatory in these talks.
I think that's exactly right. And I expect you can and have, by the way, seen already some of the same from Mexico as well.
Another leader, I mean, the woman's a communist, let's be really honest.
The Mexican leader.
President is a communist, doesn't like Donald Trump, has been not helpful at the border. And now she's having to face a Donald Trump saying, all right, you don't want to help me with the border? Look what's going to happen to you and your country. It literally could collapse. So fascinating conversation.
Speaking of communists.
Yeah, speaking of communists, great transition. Will, go ahead.
Speaking of communists, there's been some rumors circulating that there's a new name that you could expect over the next 4 years to be running for president in 2028, and that is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. There are rumors flying around.
Yeah.
She could be a name added to the following expectations for 2028, which would include Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, governor of California, Gretchen Whitmer, governor of Michigan, Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania, Pete Buttigieg, former Secretary of Transportation, J.B. Pritzker, and then now AOC.
Yeah, I think, why is everyone going down to Mar-a-Lago? Because Donald Trump won the election. And in doing so, he really cut the top of the Democrat Party off. I mean, Kamala Harris is, she's getting ready for Thanksgiving dinner, she said. So that's what's next for her. And Joe Biden, I think he's out, right? He's ready to roll.
Yeah,
he's over it all. And so then you say, well, who's leading this party? Well, who is leading this party? You named off some names that a lot of people got excited about. Someone like Shapiro that comes across as moderate, which isn't. But they're governors. They're running states. So who at the national level, who is active in the halls of Congress, who's actively fighting against what the Trump administration may do? And this name AOC comes up. Why? Because she's going to be old enough by 2028. She's going to be 35 by then.
She will be. Let's see what Monica Crowley has to say about it, and then we'll talk about it on the other end.
Someone asked me, hey, do you think Trump will get reelected? I was like, Trump's the only way Trump won't get reelected. The country's doing great. Everyone's happy. They're going to reward that. And then COVID hits. And so what I mean by that is Trump just went on a very populist message, one that reached across the aisle in every category you can think of. And she would be going up against that maybe with a J.D. Vance, I guess. But what happened in 2020 is people, voters on the Democrat side at least, swung towards the establishment because they were scared. They were scared from COVID, and they wanted, what did they say, return to normalcy was the tagline. She doesn't win in that scenario. So it depends on how successful this Trump administration is on who can come up from the Democrat side. I would not underestimate her, but I would say that right now, today, if she went into a debate against J.D. Vance, I think it'd mop the floor with her. She is a good communicator, but he's a very intelligent person who is also a good communicator. And I'm not attacking her intelligence, but when it comes to issues, especially things like the economy, he has a way of saying things that are really smart in really simple ways. And you would expect out of a Trump-Vance presidency that's successful, J.D. is the heir apparent. So it depends on who you're going up against.
It's a lifetime away, 2028, and a lot will change. I think I'm with you, Rachel. I do think that the left, I think a country just rejected the far left. I think that's what just happened. And I think she represents the far left. And I think the rest of the squad is getting voted out. But I also think she's of a different political quality than the rest of the squad.
Absolutely.
And watch what she does over the next 4 years.
100%. Later today, the San Jose State University women's
An appointed judge rejected an injunction this week to stop this transgender player from playing in the Mountain West Conference tournament. The only way this will ever stop is the way that so many of those schools are trying to. So Boise State, Utah State, and others, and that is to protest. It's to forfeit. It's the only way this is ever going to be forced to the issue.
Interesting.
And many of those schools, I think, laudably have done so.
I think it takes courage. I think it really does. And what is so terrible about this is it just puts an asterisk. I mean, this team has road forfeits all the way to the championship game. There are girls on that San Jose State team that their accomplishments are now going to be tarnished or have an asterisk, and it's just unfair to a lot of people.
How many other teams have to do this for this to be an effective?
It's a great question. I don't know.
We don't know.
It's not going to happen today in the Mountain West Conference game, and then they get to the NCAA tournament, which the price is even higher for girls at that point, because then your season's over. You forfeit in a tournament, and your season is over.
This is maybe not the greatest analogy, but it's the way I think about it. I think about it going back to the pandemic. You were talking about that, Joey, earlier. If everybody had just said no, we wouldn't have had to go through those 2 years. If everybody just said, no, I'm not going to wear your stupid mask. It never makes sense, and I'm not going to wear it. It wouldn't have worked. But when people go along with it, they get away with this. I really hope women stand up for themselves en masse and this madness for good.
When you ask what makes the change, what could make it permanent, what makes it change, it goes into this bigger conversation that Will and I are pretty familiar with, where the NCAA as a regulating body is struggling with, does it even have power anymore, with basically professionalizing college sports. And so this is just another caveat of this big conversation that those that follow college sports and are invested in it are having, and there isn't an answer for it right now.
Joey and I are mapping out our 12-team college football playoff
Dogs won last night, by the way, or this morning.
We'll get to that, I'm sure, throughout the morning. But Fox weather alert, lake effect all the way in on Christmas. Everybody keeps saying it's really tight this year as well.
Yes, Thanksgiving is late. It is right up against December.
Right.
And in my personal life, it's caused all kind of hectic problems because of things that we schedule at the end of November, beginning of December every year. But it makes you feel like that you're kind of getting cheated a little bit. If you're one of those people that waits until Thanksgiving to celebrate Christmas. In my house, we had a jack-o'-lantern, a turkey, and some nutcrackers all on the
at the same time.
So, I mean, we start with Christmas in October. That's just what we do.
Yeah, I don't do it that way. But I'm excited. Advent is starting, so the 4 weeks leading up to Christmas.
Is your tree up?
We're going to get it today.
Today.
We always get, we don't necessarily put a lot of pressure on decorating it, but because we go and cut down a tree and it's a big
Yes.
tree, we always get it on the Saturday after Thanksgiving.
There you go.
That's a little tradition we have.
Does he climb to the top of a big tree and cut the top out, and that's what you
No,
is that
but
what he
when
did?
I first met him, we would cut down all of our trees. Now we, he's
Buy a
gotten
tree.
soft.
Now you're sitting
gotten soft.
The secretary nominee. By the way, all Thanksgiving, it's been funny because everyone's been calling him
Mr. Secretary?
Mr. Secretary, and then he's the Secretary of Thanksgiving. Then I've been named the Secretary of Labor, obviously. Right? And so the secretary jokes in the house have just gotten, the Secretary of the Asparagus, the Secretary. It's just gotten so funny at home with all of this. And I have to tell you guys one last thing before we move on to the news, because this is actually the biggest news of my life. I became a grandmother the day before Thanksgiving.
Abuela.
Yeah. My son had finally, and his wife had his baby, and so we're excited for baby Lourdes.
Nice.
Yes. So,
Congratulations.
Yeah, we're excited.
To you and Sean.
Thank you.
To the entire family. And we're going to get you set up for Christmas a little bit later in the show. It's now officially time to get the Christmas tree out if you haven't already. We'll set you up here on Fox and Friends. President Biden, meanwhile, picking up an anti-Israel book.
Very interesting topic. One of the things, the hostage situation is something that domestically in Israel has been a much hotter topic of conversation than it has been here in the United States when talking about the Israel, Hamas, and Gaza situation. In Israel, domestic politics have been heated with so many people wishing that Benjamin Netanyahu had put more emphasis on getting the hostages released, because that obviously conflicted with some of the military goals that he had in addressing Hamas. And, if you were the parent of one of those or the family member of one of those hostages, you would have felt the same way. Like, just get my loved one home, deal with Hamas and them later. Obviously, the Israeli government and military choosing to do it in a different way.
I started the show Landman on Paramount yesterday. And during watching Landman, I saw an advertisement for all the missing people from holidays, from Thanksgiving, from Hanukkah, in reference to the hostages still in Israel. Take a look at the cover of the New York Post. This references the book that President...
And it will be very interesting if maybe even before he takes office, if we start to see more of them back. And I am praying for that to happen. Because
it's hard to believe...
some of those hostages, not only Americans, are being held, but also there are infants.
It's hard to believe
held.
that the Palestinians would want a two-state solution now, because they're going to want Israel to help build what would be their state back. I mean, it's in rubble because of Hamas's atrocities on October 7th.
Well, the world is falling into line with the anticipation of President Trump. It is really interesting to see that, from Mexico to possible ceasefire and then hostage negotiations there.
And in Ukraine as well. Well, we're seeing some movement there.
We're starting to see some potential conversations there as well, in anticipation of President Trump. Also, by the way, people at home making some choices in anticipation of President Trump. Take a look at the differences in great again, make the economy great again. There's a positivity that should be reflected in the economy versus the message you've had for 4 years of, I think, a bleak future for America.
I think there is an answer for this, though. This is purely speculation, but built on science. I think that all of this messaging about don't invite the Trump supporters to your house for Thanksgiving and Christmas, sever yourself from them, that's the 11% downtick. They're just not buying Christmas presents for their, and all of the red states
You're
going
saying they
up.
cross all the Trump relatives off the list?
Yeah, and the red states going up are because they're all buying the Trumpy bear and the Trump watch and the Trump shoes for all of their blue state relatives. That's what's happening.
That might be it. I did see some Trump here online. That was kind of fun. So listen to this, because you're talking about people reacting in industries, countries reacting in anticipation of Donald Trump. Well, so are food companies. The owner of Twinkies, for example, issuing a warning to RFK because they're concerned. RFK, of course, wants to ban ultra-processed foods. I can't think of a food item that more sort of encapsulates everything.
Do love a Twinkie. I don't have them very often, but I don't remember the last Twinkie I had, but I love a Twinkie. But we all know something intuitively. We know bad health choices when we make them.
Yeah.
And then we know the cycle that we're in of eating bad foods, and then, as he points out, then trying to treat it through a medicine like Ozempic. It's a cycle that we know is not healthy. And I think what Callie Means said, and Rachel, this has been something that you admittedly are much more passionate about than perhaps Pete or I or Joey have been, but I do know it and I do care. To see people like Dr. Marty McCary become a part of this administration, like Jay Bhattacharya, who we just talked about in that clip right there. These were truth tellers during COVID. These are truth tellers when it comes to pharma and food. And I agree with that. I do think we are on the verge of potentially a golden age when it comes to health.
And I think there's two components to it. One is that really corrupt relationship between, say, he was talking about Scott Gottlieb, who goes from the government health industry, sector, and then immediately into pharma, and then becomes an advisor to the government from pharma, from Pfizer. I mean, this is corruption at its highest level, and he is attacking RFK, and that's why Gottlieb came into that conversation. So there's that government component, the big pharma, big food. We talked about the Twinkies and all this stuff, this cycle. But the other part, we have a lot more control over. We like it. You said a lot of people like a Twinkie every now and then. They like a processed food that they, just happen to love. But we have got to get back to home cooking. There's something that feminism and sort of modern culture has done, which is to devalue that part of what used to be a big part of home life. And I think if we could get back to cooking and valuing the people who cook home-cooked meals for us in our life,
yes.
I think we could be a better country. And I think it's two parts. It's not just the government getting the chemicals out of the food and out of our soils and all that stuff. There's another part, which is we have to literally change the way we operate as families. This too busy to cook thing is what's also killing us.
But real quick, the other side of it, ban things that are bad for you, maybe. Make things that are good for you affordable. That's the other side they need to work on. It's hard to cook at home when it costs you $50 to cook for two people because good food is expensive and fast food is cheap, and that's the problem.
You're right, and we subsidize that bad food. RFK Jr. in the interview that we did with him here on Fox and Friends talked about how in Europe, if you are poor and you are getting essentially their version of food stamps, your food stamp works at a farmer's market.
Oh, yeah.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Why are we saying, here's your food stamp, but you can only buy crap food that's ultra processed? So we're poisoning poor people and punishing them for getting help from the government when they need it. We should be subsidizing foods that make people healthy, because in the end, we'll all pay less on the other end, the medical expenses. So here we go. I could go on forever, guys. Just cut me off. I'm excited about this new golden era of health on the verge of happening here with the Trump administration. Turning now to your headlines, the prosecution and defense. All right, it's time for another pop culture roundup, and this time we're joined by Chanley Painter. We've been wanting to have her on for a long time.
Yeah, good morning,
here
Rachel.
she is. Good morning, Chanley. Well, we're going to start off with Rosie O'Donnell. Sorry about that. She's having a Thanksgiving meltdown over President-elect Trump. Listen to this, Chanley.
You can't.
Doing well.
Yeah, what's shocking, Rachel, is that she didn't burn her turkey while going on for 10 minutes on Thanksgiving on her TikTok, which I didn't follow her before this, so I went and I took a gander at her TikTok. A lot of what she calls rambling videos. She's taken this election victory by Trump really, really hard, and doesn't like the fact that more than half of America disagrees with her.
Do you think a lot of Democrats are having this kind of feeling post-election?
It does seem to be that way, and one thing that Rosie did say is that speaking to strangers helps her when she's feeling anxious. I would just like to see the faces of these strangers when she starts talking about, Trump and rape and what's to come in America.
Yeah.
It's not something you want on a joyous Thanksgiving holiday.
Yeah, it's kind of a downer at the O'Donnell Thanksgiving celebration. All right, so here's another downer. Meghan and Harry received 0 invites from the royal family. Now, on Diana's side, Earl Spencer offered them an invite. They declined. Not fancy enough, maybe? I don't know. But I think that Harry seems kind of bummed about this.
He does. They won't be bringing the figgy pudding, apparently, to the royal wedding. But If I remember correctly, they're the ones that left the royal family, right? And so it's not really shocking that they didn't get an invite. It's like they're plain hokey.
But do you think Harry's getting buyer's remorse? I think as the kids get older, he's remembering his days at Balmoral Castle and all the fun things they did.
I've never been married, but I think that when you are, like, you should just, the husband knows that he's going to spend it with his wife's family, the holidays, so.
No, there's a switch off.
Used to that, I don't know.
There's a switch off, I think. I think he's having buyer's remorse, Shanley, and I think as the kids as the kids get older, I think the memories of his childhood and the Christmas traditions, which, by the way, are like 1,000 years old in his family, right?
Yes.
I think it's hitting him hard. All right, but you're right. They did make their.
And so by putting God and family first.
Michael Murray, what do you make of his message?
What a great role model he is. First of all, great eye candy on the screen, but he's a family man. Where is my Chad Michael Murray in life? That's what I want to know.
Where is he?
Yeah.
Really handsome, great message. Think people are listening?
Absolutely. I really hope that they are. Also, his new movie on Netflix, The Merry Gentleman. If you're looking for a great holiday movie, I would definitely recommend that as well. But I know you're a person of faith as well, Rachel, and you have a family that's really focused on putting God first, and that's the example he wants to set.
I'm glad he's using his platform to do that, especially around the holidays. Shanley, we loved having you here.
Thank you for having me. It was so much fun.
You got it. All right. So Fox weather alert. We have a lake effect snow blanketing.
The only one I'll see in person because I'm pretty local. I'm pretty local when I come in here. Guys, listen. It is Christmas season, right? Like that's the next thing on the calendar. Like we said, Thanksgiving is bumped way up towards December. But for me, this is my favorite time of year. And let me tell you why. You've got football, right? And you've got hunting season. My buddies are all heading to Texas here in a day or two. Oh, actually tomorrow. They're going deer hunting down there. So I'm wearing my camo here. I've got my hunting dog on my tie. And to have Christmas, football, and hunting, man, I can't think of there's not a better time of year. It just doesn't get any better than this. Rachel, I'm sure you agree.
I agree. No, I actually really do agree with you. And I love that you put all those together. It is a very shortened season, so Advent is starting with the 4 weeks leading up to Christmas, right on the heels of us. Everybody who hasn't started shopping is starting to get nervous because you just don't have as much lead time. Will, you getting ready?
Well, no, I'm not. I was hunting. I was out last weekend, to Joey's point. We do at least one hunt a year that is very, I don't know the right word to use, backwoods.
Are you talking about the squirrels again?
Yeah, and what I figured out, just hear me out for a sec. A lot of you do not like the fact that squirrels are hunted. And I don't know why squirrels get protected class versus other animals. I think it's the furry tail, and it offends a lot of you. But yes, we did go squirrel hunting.
They eat all my corn. I want to shoot all of them.
It's Chippendale.
But it was awesome because there's a rule in our family that you have to be 13 to go on this particular hunt. And so it was West's first year. So I had both my sons with me. It was awesome.
I always thought Joey was the bigger redneck until I heard the squirrel stories.
Well, Joey thought I hunted. Joey texted me the other day and goes, "How did the crow hunting go?" I'm like, dude, I'm not, you're like moving me further down the backwoods ladder. Like, who hunts crows?
Have you hunted squirrel?
Oh, absolutely. So when you're a hunting family, when you grow up, as a kid, you learn to shoot and hunt with squirrels. That way, because you don't have to quite be stealthy like a deer. And that's how your parents, your dad, or my granddad taught me. And let me tell you real quick. So my grandmother had corn hung from a line so she could wash dishes and watch the squirrels run on the line and eat the corn. And she's sitting there washing dishes one day, and boom, her favorite squirrel just drops dead. And what she didn't know is my papa and I were around the corner with a .22 doing target practice. I killed my first game.
You're going to get a lot of upset people talking about this show. Trust me from experience.
She cooked squirrel and dumplings. She kept it together.
We ate it.
Strong woman.
We ate squirrel last week.
Yeah, that was the part that really took me over the line. We didn't just kill them. They eat the squirrel.
I don't recommend.
PETA letters are already coming in right now.
Matt was his name. Matt the squirrel. Took him out right in front of her while she's washing dishes. Then she had to cook him. It was terrible.
But we love squirrels. Awesome. We love squirrels. We also love this event from Mar-a-Lago. Justin Trudeau made his way down to meet with President.
This is a big deal. I mean, Justin Trudeau and Donald Trump ideologically opposed, and yet you see Justin Trudeau. I'm going to read you this quote. You're going to see how conciliatory he is. He's not messing around. He understands he can't play games here. This will deeply affect Canada. And so he This is a quote from him earlier on Friday. He says,
and them knowing he'll follow through will get us the result we want. And I want to make sure Americans know the result we want is a secure border, is fentanyl and bad people staying outside our country. And I think that if our neighbors or our friends, like Biden wanted to say, then they should want that for us too.
The border is one of the issues. The other thing is Donald Trump actually believes this could be a good revenue stream. He's talking about using the money from these tariffs to help pay for some of the tax cuts he wants to bring back, but more importantly, to lower the deficit. Which
these particular tariffs, these specifically to Canada and Mexico, are designed to affect policy change, and that policy change is a more secure border. Trump also looking at another plan to help ensure border security, and that is to give power to local sheriffs across the country to enact border policies, to deport illegal immigrants, to control a more secure border. Sheriff Richard Jones from Butler County, Ohio, was on Fox and Friends a little bit earlier talking about empowering sheriffs on the border.
I think we're going to see really soon if the American people really do have the appetite for this. So you're going to see, and this is fascinating, sheriffs uniting. You're going to see retired veterans being enlisted to help in these deportations. They're going to start with criminals, gang members. I think that's going to be overall positive and happy. And people can't really argue much with this. In fact, the Democrat Party this whole week, you're starting to see a lot of them coming around going, man, we really screwed up on this border policy. We really misread the appetite that the American people would have for this. By the way, a lot of whistleblowers that we have to thank, from the Border Patrol to Tara Rhodes, who exposed what was going on with the children who have been lost through the Health and Human Services Department. So a lot of things that they're rethinking. But make no mistake, when this starts to go into workplaces and you start to see, moms and dads being deported, we're gonna see how this plays out, because the media is definitely going to have a field day with this. Yeah,
the thing about interviewing a sheriff, sheriffs, for the most part across the country, are elected officials. I'm working on a project now. I had a chance to interview Sheriff Mark Lamb and just learn how he became a sheriff and what he experienced. And what people need to understand about sheriffs is there's no one in your local community that understands the nuances of your community like your sheriff, if you have a good one.
Sure.
And it's really smart and really strategic to target them and bring them on board with this. And I think that Donald Trump and Tom Homan are really smart. Obviously, this is something that's happened before, but when you're interviewing him, talking about, he knows where these criminals are. He knows where he can go get them when he has the opportunity and authority. And I have to believe there are probably thousands of sheriffs like that in this country. They're not ready to just go after people. They're ready to go after criminals that shouldn't be here to begin with and are just a waiting, ticking time bomb.
Right.
You asked the president about this, Will, when we were at Bedminster.
Yeah. And he said he understands that there will be political challenges, meaning the images you talk about when it comes to deportation. We'll see how that goes, but I definitely think enlisting sheriffs is a smart way to execute this plan.
Very smart.
Well, later today, the San Jose State University. Numerous teams throughout the regular season of the Mountain West have forfeited their games against San Jose State. Boise State forfeited their Mountain West tournament game against San Jose State, pushing San Jose State into the finals. I think the real question is, and this is something that you've brought up, and it's something that we can say theoretically and abstractly, but really, it's going to take everyone, quite honestly.
Yes.
I don't think you can pick and, I don't know that anything will change until it's like everyone says, we're not playing. But that's not going to happen today. I think it's today with Colorado State.
So I think the timing of this is interesting. I mean, we're seeing this kind of, boycotting. I don't know what they're calling it, but it seems like a boycotting of these tournaments when they allow a male on a team. I mean, it's happening now. I mean, I think that there's something shifting culturally in America. I think 4 years ago, a lot of those girls would have been much more afraid and timid to take this kind of a move. And I think this is a really positive thing for women, for feminism, but mostly I think just in terms of the crumbling of this woke culture. I think this is a tipping point here.
You have to give a lot of credit, I think, not just because we see her on here a lot, but Riley Gaines really took so much hate and criticism, and really she allowed her professional goals to be set aside in order to champion this cause. But because she did that, Now other players and other women in sports that are still in sports are giving the opportunity or having the courage and the support to speak out. This is Sia Lee from the Independent Women's Forum ambassador. She's a University of Nevada women's volleyball captain, and this is what she had to say on this subject.
Yeah, I mean, people are just tired, especially these athletes, of pretending that these are not men. And that's the bottom line. I don't know about you guys. We've been interviewing, and by the way, thank you for bringing up Riley Gaines. I've said she's the face of feminism. She has been just such a powerful voice. We've had her on here. But set Riley Gaines aside, who I think, you know, has been uniquely firm since the get-go. We have brought in girls, even high school girls, for the last 4 or 5 years. And I mean, this interview that you did just really brought it to the forefront for me. How timid they were and afraid they were, even though they were standing up and they were brave. The strength that they have gained over the years in asserting the truth. These are men. They don't belong in our sports. They're destroying our sports program. The fear that I saw 5 years ago, even for those brave women and girls that stepped forward, versus now, something's happening.
So we're seeing it with the girls. What we need to see it now is from leadership.
Amen.
Fathers, parents, school leadership need to honestly mirror this strength we're seeing from young women.
Yeah, I think it is quite an example because it does take courage. I mean, these young girls aren't bigoted in any way. Some of them are even friends with the athletes that they're taking issue with, and they're very torn and conflicted, but they're standing up for what they believe in, and we applaud them for it.
Yeah, they get accused of being transphobic. Yeah. They get the social media attacks that they get can be so isolating and hurtful.
Well, we support them.
We do.
And we also support you guys, and you guys definitely support us, and we love you for it. I want to tell you about the tickets that are on sale now for Fox Nation's annual Patriot Awards. This is a way for fans to connect with us.
You know, when you come around, everybody wants their picture taken in front of it. I think it's replacing the Rockefeller as the favorite place to come get your picture taken.
Crowd out there right now.
I know.
I see them right now.
People love it.
I think it's just a better tree. It's a better place to look at a tree. Hey, that might be the best Luke Bryan song I've ever heard. He's a Georgia boy. He's a hunter. I like him, but I think his voice was made for that song. That was really good.
It was good.
I think this weekend is one of the biggest lies you ever tell yourself. So I just got done, obviously, as we all did, eating buttermilk pie, pecan pie, pumpkin pie, all of the above. And I'm telling myself, I'm going to get it right. I'm going to get it together now.
Oh, diet starts when? Saturday, Sunday, Monday,
today.
what? Today.
But it's a lie. No. And I know, right? No one gets right between Thanksgiving
because
and Christmas.
the leftovers are still there.
No one. Well, that's right for today.
Yeah.
But and then, what are you going to just get healthy right before Christmas? And
you just got to go to portion control.
I know that, but I'm going to tell myself that lie.
You've been pretty good up until Thanksgiving, honestly.
Yeah, it was good. It's getting on about a month now.
You know, talking about
did you get knocked off on Halloween?
Around Halloween, and then
the candy comes in the house, Joey.
Yeah. You know, talking about lies, lying to yourself, gaslighting people, saying one thing when you're doing another. Look at how the Democrats have handled the border for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
And so on that topic, maybe Democrats are finally, admitting that their border policy was maybe non-existent and very hurtful to this country. This is a quote from an anonymous Democrat senator on the Hill. Like about this, which is so much different than everything you've heard post-election, is this is not about messaging. This is about policy. They're saying we didn't do our job. That might not be exactly what they mean, but that's how I read it, which is the truth. And I hope, for the sake of our country, that many Democrat senators and representatives are waking up to this, because we're going to need them to vote the right way.
Do you believe that that's what that anonymous senator is saying, that we got the policy wrong, or is this him saying we got the messaging around the policy?
I think it's policy.
All of them were silent. Not one of them said anything.
I think they have to understand it's more than messaging. I think they have to have seen the effects, not just at the southern border, which, by the way, including as of recently, you can see a 10-year-old boy was found abandoned at the southern border. So they have to have seen the impact.
Evil cartel members, they literally abandoned them. Watch what happens when our Border Patrol, who are the greatest humanitarian effort in the Western Hemisphere, when they come upon this little boy. Yeah. Watch this. Well, 20% of boys that we know of are sexually assaulted on these journeys. It's upwards of 30% for the girls. This is a scandal.
Yeah, and the video that we just showed, which is shocking and sad, is actually the end of the trip. It's what's occurred all the way to that border, is what Sarah and you are referencing. We've created a magnet, we created an incentive, and you're seeing the terrible payoff of that incentive.
Yeah.
I just want to point out, you've talked about this a lot. These are two examples, a 2-year-old little girl, a 10-year-old little boy. There are, I believe, tens of thousands of unaccompanied minors that are lost.
300,000.
300,000. Of that little boy and that little girl multiplied by 300,000 that we have no idea where they are in this country. They got here, we know that, but that's all we know. And the way they're living, who has custody of them, we don't know. And that's just, it cannot be allowed.
And never forget, the Democrats fought tooth and nail to make sure that no DNA tests were taken with the child and the adults we handed. They fought against making sure that we could see if there was actually a familial, connection between the two. They fought against it. We should never forget that the Democrats who are now complaining, oh, we got the policy wrong. They didn't just get the policy wrong. They fought to make sure it was as bad as possible.
Well, those policies are about to change. In a matter of a month, month and a half, those policies about to change here in America. Looking past the promise of the next 4 years, Democrats are already speculating what could happen in 2028. Social media is running wild with who could run for president as a Democrat. Familiar names, you're familiar with some of them, Kamala Harris, Gavin, just a little bit earlier. I agree with Monica's sentiment. First,
yes.
I agree, do not underestimate AOC.
100%.
She's a talented politician in terms of being charismatic to her base. She also is a populist, as you pointed out earlier, and she's going to pay attention to changes. She took her pronouns out of her
format in her car, I think she was, and she said, listen, I want to know why you voted for Trump, because in her district, a lot of people voted for her and voted for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And she was genuinely and sincerely curious to understand how that happened. And I think she's a very smart girl. Again, I agree with Monica. So again, I am not endorsing AOC. I can't tell you how much I disagree with her. I am saying
you endorsed Gavin Newsom for 2028.
Just his hair. But here's the deal. She is a very savvy girl, young woman, and she will, I think, over the next 4 years, she's watching Donald Trump. She's looking at populism, and she's going to try and convince everyone that she's not a communist and that she's a populist. And this is going to be really interesting to watch. And all those people that we have up on the wall, they're going to be watching her closely, too.
Maybe she'll convince herself.
Seriously.
All right.
All right, a new report shows nearly 70% of the Biden administration's education enforcement targeted Christian and career colleges, something you intuitively heard about in stories here, for example, on Fox and Friends, but now revealed in a new report on enforcement, where they targeted their enforcement. Brian Mueller, the president of Grand Canyon University, called out Biden's Department of Education a little bit earlier. Watch this.
It was such a fascinating conversation I had with this president of Grand Canyon University. When you looked underneath, there were no investigations of any Ivy League universities. There was no student complaints, for example, in Grand Canyon University. We heard about the weaponization of the federal government, on Donald Trump and through some of these legal battles. We did see the Department of Education go after parents. We didn't hear enough about what they were doing
to quiet you or quiet, to go after you for having a set of ideas that don't agree with theirs.
Do you think that Donald Trump will actually dismantle the Department of Education?
I think he needs to get Mike Rowe
back?
involved.
I think that every promise he's suggested so far looks like to ones he is executing.
Yeah.
I really hope it's true, because that would make a huge difference. That department has shown itself to have way too much power.
Here's what they've said, by the way. The DOE, a spokesperson, said